Is Alejandro Garnacho good? It's a simple question, and you tell me down below in comments.
Ladies and gentlemen, Garnacho is an average to good level footballing talent, relative to like the best young players in the world. Footballing talent, and no, I'm talking about technical ability. We all know, right? Every player who kind of bursts onto the scene at professional level. I'm sorry guys, if this is news to you, they don't all start at the same base level. Some guys are more naturally talented than others. And first of all, for all of them to even make it professional, you have to be talented in some way. But when we're talking about talent relative to professionals, Garnacho, when you look at the best young talents in the world in terms of natural footballing ability, he's average to good. He is.
It looks like the young Argentinian's time at Old Trafford is done, and I think this will be a move that'll be best for both parties. It's never fun when you have to let an academy product go before he's reached his peak, but Garnacho has never done enough to endear himself to the United faithful. I'll get into the detail on the tactical side, but the not celebrating goals in front of the fans in a very childlike tantrum move also seems to be as leaky as the Old Trafford roof, and it is worth saying that this isn't factual, but it is strongly believed that he and his younger brother have been supplying Twitter accounts with team sheets and dressing room information. And that could and should be a concern for any buying club, and he needs to curb that petulance and immaturity big style, because that's probably brought the end to his United career more than anything else I'm about to speak about now. But that's the best way to describe Garnacho's game. He's direct, with and without the ball. His ability to occupy the last line and stretch the pitch to receive the ball in behind from a direct pass from deep, his pace and acceleration are top in equal measure, so he can get in behind easily and latch onto balls that aren't even weighted perfectly because his pace is the equaliser. Out to win runs from the wide areas, completely tearing a fullback to shreds. Even when he gets on the ball, he doesn't seem to slow down. Still driving in behind and keeping it away from his fullback marker. One-on-one dribbling is where he excels as well, when he's in the wide areas or bearing down on goal with a lovely change of direction and a bit of flair. He can embarrass defenders. He can also carry the ball deep from his own half towards the opponent's penalty box. Once he hits his stride, his pace is near impossible to anticipate in terms of when to tackle, because one poor decision and he's away or you've given away a foul. With both of these qualities, he can get himself into some really great positions, but there are two big issues with this: his decision making and his quality, which I think some would argue are pretty important. His ignorance of his teammates around him is, and I can't stress this enough, frustrating. He is a head down, look at the ball and go type player. Defo the kid on the playground that clenches his fist by putting his thumb in the middle of it, probably turn his cap around right before two. There can be some brilliant runs around him, but he does not care. And then the other issue is that when he gets into a half-decent position, or even better than that, his quality lets him down so bad. His ability to finish is at best inconsistent, at worst terrible. Lack of composure, a lack of placement, all of the potential good work he's done getting himself into that position is all for nothing. His ability to be a third-man runner helps fashion out these opportunities though, and with his level of flair he has at his disposal, he can do everything right, bar the thing that actually wins you games. His relationship with his fullback slash wingback is a puzzling one as well. Comfortable making underlapping runs to support the wide player to get him behind the defensive line, or vice versa, being the wide threat and linking up with his teammate who could be underlapping. And again, the issue with these moments is decision making. Ignoring runs is sometimes a lot easier to do than looking up and spotting them, and he has the quality to use those runs to his advantage to move inside and create chaos from central half space areas, but if you're the supporting runner, get used to making a lot of runs without ever touching the ball, and when he has one of those games, which is pretty often, where his quality lets him down, then I tell you it's enough to have the Samaritans on speed dial. One thing that does my absolute nut in is when he gets down to the byline or in crossing situations in general, you guessed it, he doesn't look up, and all he does every damn time is pull it back to the penalty spot, every godforsaken time. Now the odd time a midfielder is arriving on the edge of the box and they have a good chance to score, and then it looks class, but I don't know if he knows that when a striker makes runs into the box, it's not just to create space in behind them, but also to actually receive the ball for a clearer shot on goal. And that doesn't stop him throwing his arms in the air and a little bit of a sulk every time he starts an opposition counter-attack. If you're going to take all the worst parts of Cristiano Ronaldo, then you have to take the good, and yet he still has not. Also an absolute liability off the ball. Not intense enough in the press at all, half pressing at best, and that's being generous. Also very easily ran past, and leading to his fullback being a fullback, because he better get Garnacho out of this or else he's screwed. Also, the time he has to physically duel with someone, on or off the ball, then he's in trouble. Very physically weak and too easily looks for the foul, and just gets out-muscled by anyone with a little bit of physicality about them. The biggest issue with Garnacho is that there's potentially 30 goals a season in him, if you can refine those qualities, and that potential is enough to make clubs gamble. Arsenal need his profile badly, but again, not worth the gamble. He's the exact type of profile that Chelsea are going for at the minute, but again, I'm not sure that's a good thing. Spurs could well be an option. I don't see it happening, but they're probably the one club I can see making the gamble and have it make sense. Napoli's a strong link with him to replace Kvaratskhelia, and I can see that, and maybe Conte is the exact type of manager he needs to get the best out of him.
Bruno Fernandes mentioned about a potential lack of application in training sessions that maybe was hindering his ability and playtime in the first team. There was also a report that Erik ten Hag wasn't happy that Garnacho would often leave training with his laces untied. Just small things that you just brush under the carpet. It doesn't matter. And I still think a lot of that stuff doesn't matter. He's not the only player to do that. But it started to sow the seed around him that this was going to be a tumultuous relationship with Manchester United. In April 2024, Erik ten Hag subbed off Garnacho at half-time during a game against Bournemouth. We then saw the start of this sort of social media thing where Garnacho was liking posts that were critical of Ten Hag's decision, that felt as though he was being publicly difficult, basically, publicly defying the will of the manager at the time. And again, it just started another narrative that on social media, Garnacho was being a little bit difficult. When Ruben Amorim came in, it kind of went the way that everyone hoped it wouldn't. We saw straight away him and Marcus Rashford were reprimanded and left out of that game against Manchester City, and it seemed to be for something that had taken place in training earlier that week. Now, the reports were that there'd been an altercation between Garnacho and Ruben Amorim, and during which Garnacho turned his back on Amorim and refused to speak to him. Obviously, we weren't there. We don't know exactly what happened. But what's clear is Ruben Amorim felt it necessary to drop Garnacho and Rashford for that Manchester City game. Rashford never played for United again after that, and Garnacho did. He came back into the squad. So clearly, even though, yes, we're starting to see a pattern of these bits and bobs and problems and disciplinary issues, he was able to turn things around and come back into the team. The problem was, United's performances on the pitch, including Garnacho's, were so bad that it never fully felt like these things went away. Garnacho all season has had a little bit of an air of frustration about him. It's felt like he's been forcing things a little bit too much, trying a little bit too hard. And maybe you can say at least he's trying hard, because some of his teammates, you wouldn't even give them that credit. But it has always felt as though it's been a stretch or an extra touch, or just bobbling into the defender, or hooking the ball wide. He's missed a few high-profile one-on-ones. It seems as though he hasn't developed the way that people thought he would. How much of that, though, is the team around him, is the situation around him? Everyone at Manchester United, except for basically, I don't know, Bruno Fernandes, Mazraoui, Yoro, maybe De Ligt to a certain extent, and Ahmad, has had a pretty terrible season this year, Garnacho included. Do you blame him individually, or is he unfortunate that he's worth probably 40 or 50 million quid, and if you want to get rid of someone, he's an easy person to get rid of? Talking about dropping Garnacho in that moment, Ruben Amorim said the following quote: "For me, it's important that the performance in training, the performance in games, the way you dress, the way you eat, the way you engage with your teammates, the way you push your teammates. For that, they have to fight for their place in the team, and today, the team, we proved we can leave anyone outside the squad and manage to win if you play together. I'm going to say it again, it was not a disciplinary thing." We can't go through Garnacho's time at Manchester United without mentioning his brother Roberto. Now, this is his younger brother, who I believe is now his agent. That's according to the Daily Mail and other newspapers as well. And this has been an ongoing thing with him. But that was why that caught a lot of traction at the time. Roberto Garnacho arguing with Rio Ferdinand on social media. Then there was the whole leaking of team lineups thing. And I might be wrong that Roberto Garnacho was the one leaking these lineups for Manchester United. There were a lot of Twitter threads, there were a lot of people debating it, there were a lot of bits of evidence here and there, circumstantial, about when he's in the squad, when he isn't, when the lineups get leaked, when they don't, that Roberto Garnacho was the one leaking those lineups. However, it added to the whole circus around him and his family on social media. Every 2 minutes, you had to hear about Garnacho this, his brother that, and it just became an absolute mess. And finally, the straw that broke the camel's back, the Europa League final. United's biggest game, well, potentially single game in a decade. The difference between £100 million of Champions League money, European football next season, the difference between United being able to pay players more, attract better players, and generally be in a much healthier position. United lose to Tottenham. Don't need to go into that. I actually refuse to go into that. Afterwards, we saw Garnacho with another public interview talking about how disappointed he was to not play in that game. And it wasn't just, I'm really gutted, I think I could have helped. It was, I've played in all these games leading up to this and now I'm left out. What's that all about? And clearly Ruben Amorim agreed. He didn't like what he heard, because as soon as that had happened, literally days later, it was made clear that he won't play for Manchester United again and he will be sold in the summer.
And Alejandro Garnacho, your days might be well and truly numbered if it isn't already right now. You know what you're doing. And anyone in the comments saying you're overreacting, this isn't overreacting. This is a spoiled kid who, like I said to you right now, he's put his spat his dummies out and is sulking and is moaning and he's doing things on social media that he knows he will get a reaction. This is a reaction. A lot of people online now who have been fans of Garnacho are not happy and they know what he's doing. The cheek, the audacity. People actually backed him. People are still backing him. They say he's a great talent. But you know what, man? His attitude, his demeanor, the way he's going out now at Manchester United, it's sad. You want to go out, and you know what's mad about it all? The fans clapped him. The fans clapped him off at Old Trafford. Something that you rarely see nowadays, because sometimes we don't do that for our players. We don't clap them off towards the end. We don't do that because sometimes the relationship gets sour and we don't really see that. We didn't even see that with David De Gea. Sometimes we don't get the opportunity to do that. So we actually got a kind of farewell or sending off, because we heard the rumours or we heard the reports that Amorim told him your day is numbered and you'd be lucky if a club is going to sign you. And listen, this may be a reason why. Let's look at the exhibit, or should I say the photo right here. So Alejandro Garnacho's done a dump on his social media. He's had a summer in Ibiza. Good luck to him. Ain't got no problem enjoying yourself. Do what you got to do. It's your own time. But stuff like this will irritate fan base. It will irritate Manchester United fans. He's got a picture here of the Aston Villa shirt of Rashford. The reason why Rashford went to Aston Villa is because he fell out with the manager and he weren't really pulling his weight. He wasn't showing an interest in Man United. He weren't doing enough. He wasn't pulling his treat. He wasn't pulling his work, really. He wasn't putting in the effort.